me and reminded me that I was not the person that I thought I was in my second marriage. And encouraged me to reevaluate who I was. And once I did that, I realized, hey, I'm a decent guy. I have some qualities. I have something to offer. So I decided, well, I'm gonna make some changes, because I started becoming confident, and I started realizing that I can make changes, because I understood that it was choices. Anyway, I feel like I'm babbling. I probably am. So I'm going to move on. All right. I'm going to break it down real simple too. Some real simple things here. Don't look through his phone. Because first of all, that makes you look insecure and jealous and suspicious, and that's not a good environment. Suspicion is a terrible thing. I hate suspicion, and it's just, now if there's a certain one incident that makes you suspicious, and so you want to pursue and find out what's going on, that's understandable. That form of suspicion is life. But when you have a core of suspicion, and you're just by nature a suspicious person, then you have a problem. Because if you're living with a suspicious person, you're going to feel like this person doesn't trust you. And so it's going to totally screw up the way you think, the way you see things. Well, this person doesn't trust me. So, why should I be faithful? Why, she already doesn't trust me. And so when you look through his phone, it's telling him, well, I don't trust you. And that's a terrible place to be, and it's a terrible thing to say. Even with your actions. You don't have to say it with your words. It's just as easy to say with your actions. People need to be trusted. That's a core value of relationship, is trust. If there is no trust, then you have a problem that you need to deal with. Don't demand his passwords. Same thing. It creates a environment of suspicion, and that's not healthy. You will never, ever have a healthy relationship as long as you create an environment of suspicion. You have to let that go. If there's a problem, sit down and talk to him. But don't have a whole environment living in the house of suspicion. That's unhealthy, and it won't work. I promise it will not work. Don't flirt. That's a terrible thing. Shame on people that flirt when they're in a committed relationship, or if they're married. Flirting is what you do when you're single and you're dating. You're trying to attract a mate. That's the only purpose for flirting, is to attract a mate. So if you're flirting while in a committed relationship or a marriage, what are you doing? You already got a mate. So why are you flirting to draw in another mate? That's the only purpose for flirting. And it also makes you look insecure. Because if you're flirting, then that's saying that you need the attention of men instead of just the one man. And I know you may say, well, my man doesn't show me attention. Okay, well, I understand that, and I know that happens a lot. But that doesn't give you that's not a good enough reason or excuse to flirt. It's inappropriate. It's the first step in ultimately cheating. Flirting is the first step in ultimately cheating. Men do it too. But it's not good. Don't do that. Don't challenge his manhood. No more than him challenging your womanness. Don't tell him, oh, you ain't a man. Oh, man, don't say that. Don't say that. Even if you feel that, even if it's true, don't say it. It doesn't. I mean, who does that make? I mean, who does that help? Do you think that it's ever happened to where a woman has said, well, you ain't a man, and the man said, oh, you know, you're right. I am not a man. Oh, I'm so glad that you said that. So now I know it, and I can do something about it. I can become a man. That's never happened, and it never will. You tell a man, well, you're not a man. You know what you're going to get a lot of the times is him going out of his way, and most times in a destructive way, proving that he is a man. He's not proving anything, but in his brain, his not limited brain, but his brain where chemicals are different than a woman's chemicals, he is going to react to that, and not in the way that you want him to. So that's something you just don't need to do. Nothing good will come of it. And isn't that the purpose, is to have good, healthy things in your life, have peace in your life, and get rid of the chaos? Isn't that a more desirable existence? It is for me. And if it's not for you, more power to you. Go for it. Do your thing. Good luck with that. Never talk negatively about him to friends, which is basically the same thing I said to the men. You know, don't. I'm not gonna. Well, I've heard women that I like and respect having conversations and referring to their husbands as, well, my baby's daddy. And it's kind of said in a jest kind of way, but so is a joke that a man makes about his woman in front of everybody. That's said in jest. So don't. That's just not good. You don't know who's going to hear it. Plus, whoever you're saying it to, you think they're not going to take that and have fun with it? Oh, you should have heard what she said about her husband. She called him her baby's daddy. You believe that? Really? What's her problem? Well, it's not really. I don't know. Don't do that. It's not healthy. And that's all I'm doing is trying to give healthy advice. It's like I need a nutritionist to help me understand what kind of food is healthy. And so I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm not a preacher, and I'm not a counselor, but I think I have some wisdom and some understanding about the dynamics of people and the way they interact with other people. I wrote down here, I've got a line item for everything here too, like I did for the gentleman yesterday, but I wrote down, don't bully him. I know there are women that bully their husbands and push them around, and it's no more acceptable for a woman to do that to her husband than it is for a husband to do that to her wife. It's not acceptable. Just like it's not acceptable, any kind of physical violence is absolutely not acceptable. You don't hit your wife, you don't hit your husband. Just because you're a woman, well, I'm a woman, I can't hurt him. You know what? There are a lot of women in prison for hurting men and killing men, so that argument falls short. You can hurt him, and it just is not healthy. Violence is not the way, is not an acceptable solution to anything in a relationship, unless you're, of course, unless you're defending yourself, but that goes without saying. Let's see. Don't bully him. He'll resent it. If you do, he'll resent it. And then he's got to overcome that resentment. because eventually you gotta work it out, and you got to get back to a state of normality. But he'll resent you. Things have consequences, good and bad. Choose yours carefully. Understand his love language. Just like I told the men to understand your love language, it's important that you understand his love language and what it is. And even though it might not line up with yours, or it might not be something that you think is appropriate as a love language, it still is. And so take that information and use it for good. Love him in the way that he needs to be loved. And don't withhold it with a motive. Don't withhold whatever it is that is important to him. Don't withhold that because you're mad or for any other reason. Well, I'm not going to give you another head massage. I'm not going to rub your feet again until you do this. That's not good. It's not good for anybody in a relationship to do that. Men shouldn't do it to the ladies, and women shouldn't do it to their husbands. It's not healthy. Your love language is how you show each other love, and it's not a tool. It's not a prop. So let's see here, folks. Yeah, I just got a text. It says, "Don't change him. Don't try to." Let me see here. It's funny. I have men chiming in. Yeah, tell her not to do this. Tell her not to do that. I didn't have no ladies call yesterday or text me and say, "Hello, you better tell him not to do this." That's funny. Don't change him to be like daddy. Yeah, I think that I didn't write that down, but obviously that's an issue for some men. He's not your daddy. That's the truth. He's your husband. I'm nothing like my wife's father. Nothing like him. Although I love him and respect him, and I think he's a great man. But I'm different than he is. We're different people. And I could never be him. Nor would I ever want to be. No more than he wants to be me. I want to be myself. And I want you to love me for myself. I want you to love me because the things I do, you like those things. They make you happy. They please you. I don't try to change him in any way. That's not your job. That's not your responsibility. His growth is not about you. It's about him and his relationship with God. And of course, I'm talking to Christians. But his growth is not about you. Even if he's not a Christian, his growth is still not about you. It's about him. Just like your growth is about you. I would tell the men the same thing. Don't try to change her. Don't turn her into your mama. She don't want to be your mama. She wants to be your wife. So his growth is not about you. And honestly, you'd be wise to stay out of the way of him and God, because they're working it out. So let them work it out. When you sort of get involved, all you're doing is getting in the way of what God is trying to do. You're distracting him. And the same goes for men, the same way. Don't bully. Don't certainly never be a spiritual bully, guys. Don't do that, because if you want to find the quickest way to chase somebody away from following Christ, be a spiritual bully. See what happens. See how many people you bring to the Lord. If you're a spiritual bully and you bring somebody to the Lord, most of the time it's out of fear. Oh, Well, I don't want to go to hell. That's for sure. So